If you're choosing a place to go out for dinner or maybe ordering food online, a question for you. Do you ever bother to check the hygiene rating of the restaurant?
New analysis by the BBC's Shared Data Unit has found that 1 in 5 restaurants and takeaways haven't been inspected for more than 2 years, and it could be putting people's health at risk. Here's our reporter, Rachel Stonehouse.
Rats, cockroaches and very dirty kitchens. These are some of the worst places food hygiene inspectors have been into. And for Julie and her family, a Sunday roast at a restaurant in June ended in disaster.
Unfortunately, when we got home that evening, we both the whole family immediately became ill all through the night and for the next few days. Yeah. So, I mean, it really was rotten. Really felt rotten.
She contacted the restaurant afterwards, which hasn't been inspected for almost 2 years, and the manager said he'd investigate.
So he promised that he would call me back within the next few days and didn't. So I thought that was very poor.
And that's what, about six weeks ago now,
Yeah,
and you've not heard anything since?
I don't expect to.
So, do you have a food safety management system available for me to look at?
Yes, so we do have this file.
Yep.
Every place serving food in the UK should have an up-to-date hygiene rating. Inspectors come in, they check how food's prepared, how it's stored, and in worst cases, they can shut places down.
Egg patty and cheese?
It's in the box, so
Yeah.
I just get the box.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Food standards guidance says most places should be inspected every 6 months to 2 years, depending on the risk. But analysis by the BBC Shared Data Unit has found almost 1 in 5 have not been checked for more than 2 years. But are food hygiene ratings something people look out for when they're eating out or getting a takeaway?
Yeah, I do think it's important to pay attention to, and it should be inspected.
I judge aesthetics, to be honest, more than I do the menu. So if it looks a bit rough on the outside, I think the kitchen's probably not in the best shape.
Not particularly. As long as the place looks okay, then I'll eat there. But if you've had quite a few drinks, then you will eat anywhere.
Uma's restaurant has a 5-star hygiene rating.
Like, I've been in the food game for the last 10 years now, and it's quite a daunting place to be, especially for young entrepreneurs as well, especially people who want to get into the food game, where we're cleaning down properly, where food, the way we make it is all made correct to the right temperatures, storage, and obviously for them to make food to a level of safety is our main priority.
So I'm just going to have a look round, just checking for your cleaning, any pest issues. I'm going to do some temperatures as well for your fridges and freezers, just to have a check. Great, thank you.
Environmental health teams are employed by local councils, who say the backlog of inspections is partly due to the pandemic and also because of difficulties recruiting in the industry. Nicola recently qualified as an inspector.
Do you know the signs to look for if you did have pests?
The droppings and stuff.
People probably don't know how to get into it, because even me, like, wanting to do it from being so young, I did struggle, like, well, how do you go about it? What do you do? Like, I spoke to a careers advisor to help me, but I think there's not really a lot of information about it.
What is the worst place that you've been into so far?
There are businesses that's had, like, a cockroach infestation, and I think for the business, it's like they know there's an issue, but what do they do about it? They don't want to be bad and serve food that's not safe to public, but they don't know how to go about it. So when you go in businesses that are quite bad, I say you just need to help them out and educate them. Like, you're not punishing them for it, you need to help them out and push them in the right direction.
And situations like this are a growing concern for the Food Standards Agency.
This ability to do inspections around food businesses is a really important part of how we stop people from getting foodborne disease. And if it gets depleted, and if that's done over time, which we feel that it is at the moment, the risk to the public gets worse, and then people lose trust in British food, and that's just not good for the country.
In response, the government told us plans to change the way council's budget would help alleviate the situation. For Julie, it's made her more wary about eating out.
You have to think about these things more when it's happened to you, and be more cautious about where you eat, and perhaps look at the standard of Is it a 5 or is it a 3? You know, I think that's very important.
Rachel Stonehouse, BBC News.
We can speak now to Katie Pettifer from the Food Standards Agency. Morning. Some of those images in that report were really quite disturbing, scary. How worried should we be about hygiene standards?
Well, we are worried that local authorities aren't managing to get through the backlog of inspections from COVID as quickly as we'd like. But I would say, on the whole, food hygiene standards are really good in the UK. When businesses are inspected, 97% of them are getting a 3 or above. That means an adequate rating or above. 3/4 are getting the top rating. And we're not seeing those standards decline. And we're not seeing worrying levels of foodborne disease going up. So it still is very safe to eat out in the UK. But our worry is that if local authorities don't have the resources and the staff to get through these backlogs, that in the long term we might see a deterioration.
So what's going to change? Are there more resources? Are there more staff to be able to do these inspections?
So the worry that we and local authorities have at the moment is there are not enough people coming through the pipeline training into environmental health and trading standards, and particularly specialising in food, to meet the needs in the future. So I think there is a job for all of us to encourage people into these professions. It's a really great profession. You get to go out and about, work with businesses. You saw the local authority officer there. And to help keep people safe.
How do you, just did quite a good little advert for you there, but how do you encourage people to do that? Because it's not perhaps a career choice many people would think of.
No, it's not. In fact, I was at Leeds Beckett University, who are one of the few places who offer an environmental health degree in the UK recently. And they were saying they get practically nobody coming from school. People come into the profession because they've worked in the food industry, they've worked in a local authority, and they've realised it's really interesting. So part of it is about awareness, actually. I think people leaving school don't see this as a profession to go into.
So remind us what exactly it is that people are checking to get that standard, because you were saying that 3 or above the vast majority will get, and that's deemed adequate. So you'd be happy to eat at anything 3 or above?
I would say go for a 3 or above. If you go for less than that, you're twice as likely to get food poisoning.
Twice as likely? OK, that's a big difference. So what is it that they're measuring?
So, I mean, you saw the local authority officer there. They look at a whole host of things. They look at whether the kitchen's clean. They'll be looking for evidence of pest infections, infestations like that. They'll look at the layout, whether there's somewhere for staff to wash their hands, and whether things like the raw meat, rather, is being kept really separate from the cooked food. I've been in places where they've had raw bacon and cooked bacon touching each other, and the local authority officers said, chuck that away, never do that again. And they're also looking at the systems and processes in place. So do they know when food goes out of date? Are they throwing it away? Are the staff trained? Do they have confidence that the management know what they're doing? There's a whole host of things that goes into that score. And if a business is getting a 5, then they are doing really well on all of those things.
How much warning do the businesses get about their inspections?
They don't. They're unannounced inspections.
So how does it work? What happens?
So most businesses will be inspected between every 6 months and every 3 years, depending on how risky they are. The really risky ones, like a big manufacturer, will be seen every 6 months, and local authorities are on track with that. They're doing those inspections.
So for the big firms, they are? For
the big, risky businesses, places like care homes that serve vulnerable people, they are back on track. The problem is the backlog in the lower risk businesses. And the other thing that goes into a risk level is the compliance history of the business. So a restaurant could be anywhere between a year and 3 years, depending on, or anywhere between 6 months and 3 years, depending on whether they've got a good track record or not.
So when you're looking for somewhere, how do you know how up to date their inspection is?
So if you want to know what the rating is, a lot of them will display it. You can also go on our website, food.gov.uk, and search for food hygiene ratings, and you can see the ratings of every business up there. I think there is a problem for us if businesses' ratings are not up to date enough, and that's why we want to make sure local authorities have got the resources they need to get on and do the job there.
So I was unaware that you don't have to actually display the rating in the window, because most places we get used to seeing this sign, don't we? You know, with the number 1 to 5, you might see it in the window, but not everywhere.
It's not mandatory in England. It is in Wales and Northern Ireland, and in the FSA we would love to make it mandatory in England, but that needs a change to the law, so that's something for the government to think about.
Useful to know. Thank you so much for coming in. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.